So, Clippers versus Jazz series preview. I think this should be a good series. The Jazz coming off a 5-game victory over the Memphis Grizzlies, where I think they played pretty well, though the Grizzlies gave them a few good games, and then the Clippers coming off of a quite incredible back and forth series against the Mavs. The Clippers are the 4 seed, the Jazz are the 1 seed. The Jazz this season, regular season, had the best record in the NBA, and we're a very, very good regular season team, and we'll see how they do against the Clippers, because I feel this is their first real test where they could either strive and continue to do what works so well in the regular season, or the Clippers could win. Not to be too obvious, but just quickly explaining why the Jazz were so successful in the regular season and their system, because you look at the team and there's no superstar, though they do have Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. Basically, their team is a lot built around Rudy Gobert, both offensively and defensively. Defensively, what they do is they have Gobert in the middle protecting the paint. He's the best rim protector in the NBA, and he does a lot of the rim protection, and really that's where they make a lot of their defense and are why they are very successful on defense. And then they also have Derek Favors, who is also a decent rim protector when Gobert goes to the bench. So what they do is they run shooters off the three-point line. They try not to allow any open threes, and then they force teams into mid-range shots and dare them to attack Gobert at the basket. And then on the offensive end, their system is built around drive and kick. So they try and get into the middle, get into the paint, mostly through Gobert screens. And then they drive and kick and swing it around and look for an open three. They have a bunch of very, very unselfish, good passers who are willing to make the open pass and give up a good shot for a great shot. So that's basically the Jazz. So my big question for this series is with the Clippers is if they're going to go small like they did against Dallas, or if they're going to go back to Zubac, because I think there's a case for both. If they go small, I think they can have a lot of success offensively, mainly because it would draw Gobert out of the paint. And though he could guard someone like Nick Batum, he would have to play up on him, and then it opens up driving lanes for guys like Kawhi and Paul George. And you can easily see Kawhi blowing by Royce O'Neal, and then Gobert rotating to the paint, and then Kawhi kicks it out, and Nick Batum gets an open three. So if they go 5 out, I think they can have success offensively for sure. I think they can have success offensively no matter what if Kawhi and PG are out there. But then defensively, there's some pros and cons. I'd say the pros is that you could switch everything and not let the Jazz get inside and drive to the rim, which could really slow them down. But the cons is that Gobert could easily pick on whoever gets switched onto him. Like if it's Marcus Morris guarding him initially, I think while Gobert could have some success in terms of offensive rebounding, maybe a few post possessions, or rolling to the rim and just being taller, I think Morris could hold his ground. But let's say Gobert gets switched, Reggie Jackson gets switched onto Gobert, then I think that would be a real problem for the Clippers. And whereas if they go big with Zubac can match up with Gobert. But the negative with that is you can't really switch Zubac onto someone like Donovan Mitchell or Mike Conley. And defensively, he's someone that the Jazz don't have to respect, and they can just play off of. Another interesting thing to see will be if the Clippers put in someone like Rondo or Patrick Beverley, whether they'll just put Gobert on that guy and then just have Gobert hang back in the paint. The alternative to that is Rondo's a smart player and he can screen, and he can also knock down shots sometimes. It's inconsistent, but if he's knocking down his threes, then that could be a big problem for the Jazz. So we'll see whether the Clippers go small or big. My guess is that they'll mostly go small. I don't think Zubac will be playing 0 minutes a game, but I think they'll lean towards small for the majority, because they can definitely do that between Morris and Batum and Kawhi and PG. And then after that, Terrence Mann is also a guy who has some size and can attack the rim. I also thought in the Mavs series, the Clippers' ball movement was a lot better. So they'll have no trouble finding the open man. So let's say if the Jazz were to go to a zone, which I don't think they've done much, to allow Gobert to stay around the basket, we saw against the Mavs that the Clippers were able to find the open man and get good looks. Another thing is that with the Clippers offensively is that the Jazz don't really have two wing defenders for Kawhi and Paul George. They have Royce O'Neal, who is their best bet, I would suspect, and he'll probably guard Kawhi. But then apart from that, it's Conley, Mitchell, Ingles, Bogdanovich, Clarkson. Those guys, they're either too small or not quick enough or just not good enough defenders, though we have seen Joe Ingles give Paul George problems in the past. So we'll see who they have guarding the two wing guys for the Clippers, but I think they can have some success there. If we talk about the Jazz offense, as I mentioned, how much the Clippers switch is going to be very important. I think they're going to do it quite a bit, especially if they have the small lineup out there. And then also how the Jazz respond when the Clippers switch. One option, as I mentioned, is to post Gobert, which they don't do too much. But, if the Gobert is almost a foot taller than the guy, you'd have to think that he can turn around and do a little hook or just dunk it. Or if they're not going to do that, make sure he takes advantage of his size advantage, rebounding on the offensive glass, Gobert that is. And then the other thing would be Mitchell, because he's really their primary creator. They do have guys like Conley and Ingles and Bogdanovich who can create for themselves a bit, but it's really going to come down to Mitchell. Whether he's being smart and getting to the basket, trying to get a good look, and if a double comes, spraying it out to another player, or whether he goes a bit too much hero mode and is taking bad threes over Kawhi or Paul George. So I believe in Mitchell to make the right play. He has been for the majority of the regular season, and then he also played pretty well against the Grizzlies in those last 4 games. But we'll have to see what he does, because it could determine a lot of the Jazz's offense. Apart from that, I think the Jazz's bench can have some success. There's just a really deep team with guys like Clarkson and Ingles coming off the bench and giving them creation. If they're facing some of the Clippers bench units, though the Clippers have been staggering Kawhi and Paul George, so they can also have a good player out there for 48 minutes. But I think the Jazz can take advantage of being a deep team. Also, I think a lot of threes are going to be shot in this series from both sides. So, I can talk about analysis all day, but maybe it's just going to be who hits their threes and who doesn't. Like, if a team shoots 20% and the other shoots 50% from 3, the team that shoots 50% is going to win. And that could easily swing a few games. Maybe one more thing is the home court advantage. I feel the Jazz have a good home court advantage. They have a bit of elevation, things like that. Whereas the Clippers, I feel they almost have a home court disadvantage. It just feels really like, I'm not there, but like watching on TV, it feels like nervous. And then they always wear like a white or gray or black uniforms, no color. It's not very aesthetically pleasing. Whereas the Jazz, I feel, are a more aesthetically pleasing team to watch, just in terms of colors. So I'm sure this has nothing to do with the series, but I could easily see the Jazz winning a few games on the road. If we talk about prediction, my head is telling me the Clippers because of how they can go small and sort of bust and switch on defense and sort of bust the Jazz's system. But then my gut is telling me the Jazz, just because like the bad omens the Clippers have, how they've never gone to a conference final or haven't recently. I don't know. I think I'm going to take the Clippers. I picked them to win the championship, so I guess I'm sort of obligated to take them. My pick was at the start of the season, by the way. But yeah, I'll go with the Clippers in 7, winning on the road. I wouldn't be surprised if the road team wins quite a bit, like in the Mavs-Clippers series. But anyways, thanks for watching this video, guys. Leave a like, subscribe to this channel for more NBA content, and I'll see you guys next time.